What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are Traditional Fans with Opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Bye Bye Earth, Season 2, Episode 8. So continuing on from the last episode, whatever spell Bell casts, like it restores like her arm, restores Rundine, and basically Adonis' sword, Rusty Nail, breaks, and part of it impales Adonis. And so basically then, Mist finds this new tunnel, it learns about a new tunnel and then investigates it. That connects like the catacombs and the castle. And so basically this army of zombies is fighting Guinness and Gaff's groups. So God orders Gaff to kill Sherry, but he talks with his sword, and instead of blindly obeying God, he listens to his sword and tells his men to work with Guinness's group against all these zombies. So Belle tries to help Adonis up, and it's real that Adonis's touch doesn't decay her, but he still stubbornly quitting. He throws his sword at the machine and it causes rotting ability to spread to it, and he's able to control the machine. Basically, there's all these miasma that's unleashed, and basically he summons more zombies. Kitty, helps Belle. Then Belle's younger self makes an appearance and says Belle's the key and that the machine wants her. So Adonis then merges with the younger self, and then Sherry then sings a song that basically everyone in throughout the whole kingdom hears it, and it starts healing people and making them happy, and then the machine's no longer able to influence them as well as much as it did. And so, while Kitty and Belle are right, they're basically trying to get towards, basically Adonis, young Belle merger. You know, Kitty is impaled, but he's able to he's impaled multiple times. I'd be surprised if he lives. But he still keeps fighting. Adonis is basically completely taken over by Belle's younger self. Then Belle starts fighting her younger self, and then some explosion happens. It causes Belle to see herself, and she ends up in this basically modern day city. You see all these buildings, these skyscrapers, like modern day society. So basically, the way it is that basically this whole fantasy world is a simulation. Is what it looks like. It's a simulation. Basically Belle's revealed to basically be God. So basically, I guess she comes from the outside world. Basically, this seems like a almost like a Tron-like thing, where basically Belle's the user that ends up within the simulate within the digital world is what it seems like. That obviously this digital world is looks like a fantasy world instead of this whole retro computer thing. Yeah. So yeah. Looks like a lot about the origins of the world will be revealed next week. See, I'm interested. This is an okay, show. I mean, this season I would say is probably an improvement over last season. It's more there's more of a story to tell, with all the the lore being revealed. Kind of what people have been wanting. 'Cause, I mean, this is a fantasy series. People like lore. So yeah, so looks like a lot of lore is gonna be revealed next week. Yeah, I'm interested. This is still a mid series, but I am interested in how this goes. Fire Force Season 3, Episode 8. So in this one, Sister Sumire um basically reveals to Hibana that, basically Hibana's able to during the whole conversation, Hibana is able to figure out some stuff on her own. Basically, yes, the nuns were putting infernal bugs within the food that the sisters ate. So basically, yeah, they're before the children were being forced to eat bugs, which is disgusting in its own right, but ones that could turn them into basically like demon-like beings to cause them to catch on fire, and that's how that big fire at the cathedral started, and it's revealed that so basically what's explains the doppelgangers that the doppelgangers come from Adela, and that whenever the doppelgangers try to get into, I guess, the real world, that's what causes the spontaneous combustion, and so yeah, and then and basically Sumi reveals that even the sisters, they were not killed, they were just turned into infernals because Sumir then because she summons those infernals. Hey, it's pretty freaking dark. Like the Sumir stuff is freaking weird. Like when I read this stuff in the manga, I was like, what the frick is this? This lady is like this Sumir lady is freaking creepy. And yes, the last episode, how like the way it was like the frame was moving, they showed how creepy Sumir was. No, Sumir is freaking creepy. Like holy frick! Like I don't even think we've seen the creepiest bit. But yeah, then it's, basically you had Hibana and the other two like Fire Force soldiers with her. You know, basically they fought like they tried to attack Sumir, and she's basically able to easily like deflect like something like so basically she's a Adela Link. Sumir's an Adela Link. So yeah, basically Hoyon and Karum they get beat pretty easily. Hibana loses like holy frick, like Sumir is a threat. And I think her ability's called Shiver, whereas like basically it just feels cold and acts as like a defense mechanism and an attack. I guess you could compare it to kind of like, Gaara's sand in Naruto, where, Gaara's sand acted as a defense and a attack mechanism. And so the shivering is able to be causes vibrations that she uses as a weapon. And so, while this is going on, Arthur is getting depressed from, I guess, the aftermath of his fight with dragons. So Vulcan decide, Vulcan, his idea of cheering up is to make him a new Excalibur. And so his idea comes up with like basically a whole quest of searching for Orichalcum. Now, there's not real Orichalcum, but basically there's a whole quest, and he gets a lot, and like Vulcan gets like a lot of the other like people in Asakusa to help. And what's funny is Arthur misreads the file clue, and that leads him to he concludes it's in the Nether, like that the ore comes in the Nether instead of a shop. So basically, yeah, they're just it's in the Nether, and Vulcan's going to have to figure out how to deal with it. Yeah, and basically, yeah, and you have the whole thing with like and so yeah, things are about to pick up. All the pillars have basically been found, and yeah, a lot of stuff's gonna go down. It's interesting. Yeah. Then yeah, it's Yeah, the Sumir stuff's gonna be weird. All the stuff with the pillars is gonna be weird. And yeah, new Excalibur. Yeah, I'm not gonna give any spoilers about Excalibur, but it becomes more than just a sword later on. It becomes an annoying singing sword in another show that needs a remake. I would say Soul Eater needs a freaking remake. After Fire Force is done, after season three's done, this final season, they should announce a Soul Eater remake as like a sequel to Fire Force to adapt the entire manga. That would be freaking awesome. Anyway, like this, I thought it was a very good episode. I thought the Arthur stuff was freaking funny. The Sumir stuff was definitely creepy, but it was freaking cool. Looking forward to next week's episode. Teogonia episode 7. So in this one, Kai returns from, dealing with those orcs. He tells the priest that someone else beat them, and then basically there's like this other attack that happens with just Kai and the priest, and Kai's marks appear, and the priest seems to have suspected that there was something with Kai. He like bows to Kai, prays him as God, whatever. And then basically, and then yeah, and so basically, what happened? And then while this is going, there's like it's like a bunch of people in like the in like the village are like sick or something, including Lady Jose. So like basically all that's going on. They're trying to the whole village trying to deal with it, and then Kai talks with the priest, and the priest like stabs him in the back. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely So yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Obviously the priest cannot be trusted the way he was portrayed in the previous episode. I was like, yeah, I can't trust this guy. So yeah, I'm interested to see how Kai reacts to everything with the priest, how he deals with all the people being sick, all how the nomads are gonna deal with everything. So yeah, I really like this episode. Looking forward to the next week's Air Force Elite Thunderbirds. So this is a Netflix documentary that premiered today about the Thunderbirds, the group within the United States Air Force that basically is like a does a lot of air shows. So basically a lot of stunts, a lot of basically to like entertain like the American citizens. And like these are very difficult flight patterns. These are not easy flight patterns. It can be some of the most difficult flying any pilot can do. They're all using F-16 Flying Falcons, and so yeah, this goes to like some like how the training goes before an air show, and for some of the individual pilots that are members of the Thunderbirds at the time that this documentary was made, it goes into some of their backstory. You know, one guy was wanting to be an astronaut at first, and had a very good chance of being one, but when basically there was some like safety standards that are being changed. I guess his he was whatever I guess training he had done while in the Air Force, like while he was still trying to get into NASA. Basically, he had the qualifications to be like a Thunderbird One, which is like the head guy, and basically they needed someone to enforce This guy had his way to. Basically, there was one dude who had came with these safety standards. So like basically the way like the stunts are done, the way they're designed is you have to be forced to focus. Like the pilot's forced to focus, and it allows them to like be forced to fly safer. Was like the theory, and then whether because there was a bunch of crashes. I mean, I think I saw like And I think it'll say like 10% of Thunderbird pilots perish in crashes, which I mean, preferably we would like it at zero. These are service members. We don't want them to die, especially not in combat or especially not in an air show. But no, so yeah, this astronaut guy basically he becomes Thunderbird one instead of joining the he had the and basically it was like his childhood dream to become an astronaut, and he chose to become a Thunderbird. So he basically thought like it would have been more selfish for him to like fulfill his childhood dream being an astronaut instead of helping keep the safety standards of the Thunderbirds. Now, get where he's coming from, in my personal opinion. I would think going to space would be more important than an air show. That would just be my opinion. I mean, in my opinion, going to space is more important than an air show. I mean, look, the Thunderbirds is not necessarily a combat squadron. No, a lot of those pilots I say could do very well in combat. They are very good pilots. They are trained for combat. They could probably, let's just say, there probably aren't a lot of basically military any Air Force air squadron, like any air squadron in the world. You took air squadrons from other countries, put them against like the Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds could probably beat the crap out of most of them, if not all of them. The only reason they would lose any would be combat experience. But when it comes to like weaponry, terrain, probably like the Thunderbirds could win and could do probably very insane flight patterns due to the kind of flight patterns they do for the air shows. But yeah, then there was one guy who was trying to be a pilot, basically. The whole idea of serving the Air Force was still with him. He was young because basically, like his dad, like ran off on the family. It was like basically had a bunch of drug issues, and like his granddad was like kind of acted like a father figure for him, and like instilled within him the idea of basically serving in the Air Force, and basically his grandfather promised to put his wing, basically when he like I guess you know gets his wings. Basically, the grandfather said he would put his wings on him. So then that's what happens. Then when his grandfather died, basically, I guess before he died, he said whenever he looks out, I guess the cockpit, he would his grandfather would be his, I guess, wingman from heaven. And that was a hard scene to watch. You know, anyone who's lost a grandparent could find that scene hard to watch. Yeah, and they go into some stuff with some of the more notable crashes of the Thunderbirds, like you know, basically, what all happens, how someone's done, like someone's like basically they just pass out because the amount of cheese they go through, some of them they pass out and then they can't recover quick enough to prevent a crash. And it sucks. 'Cause, I mean, they're trained for an air show. I mean, it sucks that that's how they die. Like for me, if I was a pilot and I was gonna die, I'd rather it be in combat than in like preparing for an air show. Like I'd rather it be in combat. I mean, just saying. Like I have no problem with the Thunderbirds. Like I have no problem with air shows and all that. I do have. I mean, and they sign when they sign up for the doing all this, with doing all these stunts. They're stuntmen basically. I mean, they sign up for it. They know what they're getting into. If I was in the military, I would not be doing. I would not be dealing with air shows and stuff. I no. That'd be like if I was in retirement phase. Would I ever consider that? But I mean, I never served, so there's not. I mean, that's something for people who have served to more to think about. But as far as quality documentary, I thought it was very good, very informative documentary. And military documentaries are usually pretty good. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty good one. So yeah, do you watch it on Netflix? Well, that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.